listening to the nation's premier source on health, beauty, and wellness. Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry. Lifestyle driven.
Hi, this is Dr. Arterberry from Detroit Nation Radio, your premier source for health, beauty, and wellness, and showcasing people from Detroit that are impacting the nation and making a difference. This morning's guest is Peter Nielsen, founder of Peter's Principle, motivational speaker, fitness expert, journalist, and just about the best person from Michigan who has inspired others to achieve a health-minded lifestyle, wellness, and beauty. Peter, thank you so much for being here. We have so much to talk about.
Well, it's my pleasure to share this Sunday morning.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Are you from Michigan originally?
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I ended up winning the Mr. Universe competition in 1985. I met somebody and moved to Michigan that year, and I love Michigan. It's just a wonderful place to raise a family, but I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and that's where I was born, and many people know I was born with Crohn's disease, and that started my journey. I was diagnosed at 15 and went from 135 pounds down to 86 pounds, and then almost lost my life at the age of 17 with the surgery, and then again 14 years ago, the disease came back after being I'm the national spokesperson for Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America, and I was coming back from San Francisco doing a book tour, and I was actually doing a photo shoot as well for the Centerfold for Men's Health, and I came back, and the disease is here for one reason, to kill and destroy, and it takes no prisoners, and that night, March 7th, 2001 at 2:14 in the morning, I went into cardiac arrest, a hole perforated in my intestines and right in front of my two children.
Oh, my goodness.
They were putting defibrillators on me 3 times, and my heart stopped for a couple of minutes. So I'm very humbled that I'm here, and God has a plan for everyone, and it's way bigger than the plan that we imagine. And if we get out of our own way, wonderful things happen.
I think that's true. How do you think that those incidences in your life and those obstacles and that trauma has sort of shaped the message that you tell people about health and fitness?
Yeah, absolutely. And for people that don't know, just another low light of my life was I come from a very abusive family. So the last experience I had with my dad at the age of 17 going on 18 was he was knocking down a door, flaming drunk. He was an alcoholic, trying to get to my mother. And my sister ran out of the Brooklyn apartment building to call the police. And I went into a fight or flight because I heard my mom gurgling as she had a telephone cord around her neck. And I would have never forgiven myself if I didn't try to help her. So here I was going against a man who I loved more than the oxygen I breathed, and I got him off of my mother. And he stood 6'3" and 220 pounds, a Danish man, and then he turned on me, and I wasn't fortunate enough to get out of the room. And he broke my collarbone in 3 places as I went unconscious and gave me 6 stitches over my eye. I recite that right now to everyone listening because I was programmed because of circumstances to fail. Because when your father or someone repeatedly abuses you and calls you a mistake or a failure, then that's what you hear. And I wrote a book recently called Soul Strength, and we all need to have that metrics of inner strength. And I feel there's many invisible obstacles that we don't tend with, which usually are the past, that manifest every excuse under the sun on why we're not successful at losing weight, at a marriage, how we medicate ourselves in addiction, because we're so hurt from things that we just bury, that we run out of runway, and we deal with life by just existing as a victim instead of being victorious.
So how do people get past these obstacles? We talk about, you see so many successful people, but they're still grappling with addiction, with problems. How do you, is it a belief in God? Is it a belief in a higher power? What is it that allows people to overcome these obstacles?
Great question. And I think, when someone says to me, what do you do for a living, Peter? I mean, my TV show is now worldwide. I have a radio show as well, and I travel all over the world. And I say I'm in the hope business, and they laugh and they chuckle. But then when I explain that most of the highlights or lowlights of my life have been in the most hopeless situations, and only when I was in the middle of the storm and I didn't see land, I needed to surrender to something bigger than me. So 2 days after that experience, that my dad was in jail and that I was in the hospital recovering from something, I thought it was my fault. I thought if I wasn't born with an incurable disease, Crohn's disease, that my parents would have never argued. I felt as though if I wasn't here, then this wouldn't have happened. And that's the lie. So I went to the Verrazano Bridge in front of the Hudson River in Brooklyn, New York, and I brought my dad's razor kit. And in one hand, I was shaking up to the heavens to a God I didn't even believe in. In the other hand, I was taking the razor and cutting my wrist and seeing dripples of blood hit the grass. And it was January 17th. It was around 2 in the morning, and I wanted out. And I asked, I said, get me out of here. If there is a God, help me. And I heard in my inner spirit, give me one more day. Give me one more chance. I thought I was cowardly. So my faith is the cornerstone of my message. I am probably the most non-religious person you'll meet, but I have a personal relationship with our infinite God. And he's with me as though he's with you anywhere. He will meet you anywhere. So when somebody, is trying to break a stronghold, or if someone has lost or gained 100 pounds over and over again, or they're in their fourth marriage, or you see businessmen that are dressed to the nines, but they're going into inner Detroit to try to find some heroin because they're so broken and they're so much in pain. They don't want to do that. Someone doesn't want to be 450 pounds, but they haven't dealt with these invisible obstacles. And if I could, I just want to name a couple. One is forgiveness. You need to forgive yourself, whether you were the perpetrator or if someone else did that. My father died at 49 years young, and I didn't forgive him for 20 years after he died. I wanted to bury him, beat the lights out of him, and then rebury him. But I needed to relinquish that emotional debt, and once I did, I unprisonered me. My life began. The other one is trust. When my dad broke me up the way he did, the metrics of trust into me, you see, was broken. I was a lone wolf. I thought I was independent, but I was scared out of my skin on any relationship or anyone getting close to hurt me. So I had to deal with that. Then the next one is love. At the end of the day, the most important thing that we can do is love God's people. That's how he defines what really matters. So I had to give love a second chance, even when I went through a divorce I didn't want to go through 9 years ago. So those are things that whether you are a billionaire, a professional athlete, or whether you're homeless, we all have the tools, the power within to really matter. And until we know that we are more than worthy, we will go around that same block 400 times.
We'll be right back with Peter Nielsen, founder and director of Peter's Principles. Our next segment is called Drivers of Change, talking about people that have influenced the world.
You are listening to Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry, driving the nation with health, beauty, and wellness.
Drivers of Change, showcasing to the world the innovators from Detroit, Michigan, and the nation that are shaping the country. Today's driver of change is Jack LaLanne, who is an American fitness, nutritional expert, motivational speaker, who is called the godfather of fitness. He was originally a sugarholic, a self-proclaimed junk food junkie, basically turned his life around after listening to a public lecture about the benefits of good nutrition. During his career, he began to believe that the country's overall health depended on its health of its population, writing that physical culture, which was the term at the time, and nutrition would be the salvation of America. So for that reason, he's today's driver of change. Peter, I understand that you knew Jack LaLanne.
I met Jack about 11 years ago. He was on my television show 2 times and my radio show, and we became really great friends. I remember when I was young, I was seeing my mom and dad watching him on TV, and as I was getting older, people would say, "What do you want to do when you get older?" I said, "I want to be the next Jack LaLanne." And it's amazing on how the universe works because, Henry Ford says it best. If you say you can or can't, you're right. And I wanted to meet Jack LaLanne. And it was just manifested that it wasn't me. It was definitely a divine intervention, and God put us together. And it was a beautiful thing. He enriched my life, and he gave me an amazing word of advice. He said, "Peter, when I worked for CBS Radio," he says, "I got a salary." He said, "But you own your TV show." He said, "And you have this ability that the nation is watching you. Don't ever sell your soul for the almighty dollar." So I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Don't ever sell yourself out and betray yourself, because once you earn the country's trust, and you will earn it, it will not be given to you. You will earn it if you are real. Then they will be with you for the rest of your life." And it was words to live by, and I just, I felt honored and humbled and very grateful to be able to spend, 11 years knowing him and his wonderful wife, Elaine.
I think that's a fabulous story about our drivers of change. I want to get back to something we were talking about before the break, and it's all about this concept of invisible obstacles. And I think that's interesting because we know about obstacles. We know about things that people are not educated or maybe poor or don't have money, and these are obstacles. But it's these invisible obstacles. We talk about people who have wealth, have money, have success, or neurosurgeons, but they can't lose 30 pounds. I mean, Oprah is probably an example of this. What do you think about that? What do you think about people that have it all but can't figure this out? And let's just focus on the weight loss issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, and Oprah, I have to give her credit. She's been just a pioneer when it comes to empowerment, when it comes to soul searching, when it comes to wanting to be the best. She's worked so much on her inner self. But Oprah, for example, she's lost and gained back hundreds of pounds. So no matter how much money you have, or she's just invested $43 million in 10% of the stock of Weight Watchers. So what I say to that is, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how bad you want something. You need to have the courage to get up and to deal with those invisible obstacles that are your demons, and everyone has them, your Achilles heel, and for her, it's weight. So when people come to me, I've had 7 health clubs, and some of them get gastric bypass, and they lose, 200 pounds, but they have the mindset of a fat person, and they'll eventually get into a different addiction until they deal with that invisible obstacle, whether it was a hurt like mine, or whether it was trusting again, or forgiving, or feeling worthy. They're going to repeat that. It's going to be perpetual. So what I say to anyone, and like I said, my latest book really is about the 7 invisible obstacles. And it's so very important. I mean, think about our temple. One of the invisible obstacles is taking care of the most important real estate we have that we're going to ever live in, which is our body. We only get one model year. So many people, they can live in a $7 million house, drive their Bentley, wear great clothes. But when they come home, if they can't control themselves with whether it's they're medicating themselves with food or whatever, then they're always going to be stuck. They're never going to be fulfilled, and they're never going to finish strong because they're always going to fall short on the talents that God has given them. I mean, a perfect example is someone could be anointed in a certain area and then die of a heart attack at 46 because of artery clogging fat that's in their arteries because of them being a glutton at the breakfast, lunch, and dinner table. So until a person deals with that, they're not going to be, in my opinion, on the top of their game.
Peter, I'm finding this conversation so valuable. I thought we were going to be talking about what foods to eat, what kind of exercise to do, how many calories, how many minutes you need to spend on the treadmill. And what you're saying to our audience is it's not really about that. It's about these invisible things, the less obvious things. What are some of the most common, I'm going to use your words, invisible obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned a few, I mean, to be able to love yourself again and to have the ability to love, to be able to trust again and have the ability to forgive, taking care of your temple. Another thing is to know and to live in the present, and fear is such an invisible obstacle because most people are not afraid to do something. They're afraid they're going to fail at something.
Mm-hmm.
Most people want to get married, but they're afraid they're going to get divorced. Most people want to try to be successful at a job, but they're afraid they're going to fail. Some people want to be a parent, but they're terrified of if they're going to fail. The craziest thing, it's not the doing it, it's the unknown of, is it going to work? I would have never got on the plane to go to Belize, Central America, to go into the Mr. Universe competition. If I even had one iota of a thought that I wasn't going to win or that I could lose, I wouldn't have got on the plane. I would have never, ever got on the plane because you don't get in a marathon race, you don't get into marriage saying, well, maybe I'm going to get divorced. There is no plan B. That's why I say one of the things you need to do to break those invisible obstacles is make an agreement with yourself. Find your reasons why. Your reasons why need to be greater than any fear, than any failure of your life, and any obstacle. And when you make that agreement with yourself, let's take the word agreement out and let's change it with covenant.
Okay.
Agreement is when you make a deal with yourself, services rendered, and if you don't do it, well, I won't do it. A covenant, there is no plan B. That's why they use it in matrimony. There is no room for failure. Failure is not an option.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be continuing our conversation with Peter Nielsen from Peter's Principles. Peter's mission is to share this message with everyone from the sickest child to the healthiest adults, from the obese to the athletic superstars and everyone in between. Stay tuned.
Detroit Nation with Dr. B. Elaine Arterberry, driving the nation to health, beauty, and wellness.
We're back from Detroit Nation Radio. This is Dr. Arterberry talking to Peter Nielsen, founder of Peter's Principles, and a motivational speaker, talking about the obstacles that people face when trying to lose weight, break addictions, and basically change the life and enjoy the temple that God gave them to live in. Welcome back, Peter.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was one of the things is that we always ask each guest sort of a lifestyle moving moment, and you've given us so many pearls. But what is sort of if you had to communicate one essential thing about what people need to do in order to break through, what is it? What is the one or two things that you tell people to do? Do it every day, or something you personally do to push through and break through. We call this our lifestyle-driven moment.
Well, it starts and it ends with you. If you're waiting for that person to come and rescue you to save the day, what you need to do is turn around and look in the mirror and know that not only are you worthy, but you matter. Because no one will believe in you until you believe in you. And I say so many times to, whether it's my own kids, the power that lies within you, I call it the power of one, is we can't fall for the lie that one person cannot make a difference, because all powerful movements begin with the action of one heart, one person, and just to name a few. I mean, the Wright brothers, they people thought they were crazy to fly. Einstein, Nelson Mandela. I mean, Rosa Parks, if she didn't do what she did on that bus, the world would be a different place. John F. Kennedy, he said we were going to go to the moon. They thought he was crazy. See, the difference is that your dreams need to be so big that if people aren't laughing at you, they're not big enough.
I love that.
You know, so I really end with my own thought of I have a TV ministry called The Principles of Hope. And hope will always see the invisible, feel the intangible, and if you get out of your own way, hope will always accomplish the impossible. But you need to identify what hope means to you. Live under its roof. Don't do life on the sidelines. God never intended us to live this life of being in a mediocre way where we're just going to pay our bills and get by. We can have everything that our heart desires, but we need to believe in our dreams again.
I like this concept you have of the power of one. It's interesting. People think they need a group or they need all these things in order to achieve their fitness goals. But it's interesting how your perspective through your own personal tragedies is really, it's all about within, isn't it? It's all about the power of one, what you can do as an individual to transform your life, and thus, in your case, have extended it to transform other people's lives. How can our audience get in touch with you?
If anyone wants to reach me, you could reach me either on Facebook at Peter N. Nielsen or on my website, which is petersprinciples.com.
Okay, and I'm really glad about this. Tell me, is there any other closing things you want to say? We have a couple more minutes before we close. Is there anything else you want to say to our listening audience? This has been invaluable, this conversation, and I think it's a needed conversation.
You know, obviously we're going into Thanksgiving, you know, a few weeks away, and we want to exercise and take care of our body. We want to we want to make sure that we eat good. 60 to 70% on how you look and how you feel is what you put in your mouth.
Right.
So it's important to do that. But what I say is that the exercise and the eating actually is the easy part. It's getting through that you against you. So tomorrow morning when you get up and you start a new week, before you take the dogs out, before you put the radio or the TV on, the music on, I want you to listen to that little voice. Some people call it your gut. Some people call it your intuition. I personally call it your spirit. It will never lie to you. It will tell you the difference between right and wrong. It will tell you the steps that you're supposed to be led to truly find your passion. Because, see, when you find your passion and stay curious, you will become good at it, whatever that is. And then you will live with purpose. And when you live with purpose, you get in what I call the sweet spot. You have peace that only Almighty God can give you. And when you have that, it's worth more than any treasure there is on this earth. So there's two things we can never buy back. We can never buy back our time, which is today, and we can never buy back our health. So my wish for each and every one of you as you're listening and going through even today is value today. Live with purpose. You can never get today back. And value the one body that God has given you. It's the most incredible way you could honor God, by honoring the temple He's given you.
Well, some people say that having a great body and a fit mind is the best gift you can give yourself. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely, because as I mentioned before, is you can know every scripture, you could have all the money in the bank, but if you do not have your health, then you will not be able to accomplish the gifts that God has given us. We are all masterpieces. We're one of a kind. We're original. We have greatness within, and we need to identify that. And then for people out there that are possibly listening right now, be that one person. Be the encourager. Sometimes I meet people, and I know that they have talents more than they do. An encouraging word can change the course of someone's life. Don't get lazy. Don't be full of yourself. Don't keep it in. Lift up the phone if you need to reconcile with someone today. If you need to make a phone call, have it done. It will change someone's life.
I think that's fabulous, and I think it's so true. Thank you so much, Peter Nielsen, founder of Peter's Principles, motivational speaker, lifestyle expert, author, fitness guru. I mean, I can't thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure and a benefit to our listening audience, and I'm glad you were here today. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. God bless everyone.
This is Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry for Detroit Nation, bringing you the latest in health, beauty, and wellness. This is a premier channel for focusing on people from Detroit who are influencing the nation with their commitment. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 313 Nation Radio. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, achieve your personal best and beat it.
Detroit Nation with Dr. V. Elaine Arterberry, driving the nation to health, beauty, and wellness. Lifestyle driven.